Hello and welcome to our gathering at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Stockton. We're glad you've joined us and hope you will find here what you are seeking. We are a community of individuals holding many different beliefs, coming from many different places, and each progressing on our own journeys of life and faith. We join together in our commitment to care for humanity and to shape a better world that is healthier, more accepting, more inclusive. We promise to accept and encourage all those persons of goodwill who gather here, recognizing that we all continue to grow and learn throughout our lifetimes. We especially welcome and stand with LGBTQ persons, even as we seek to welcome all persons of every age, ability, status, color, and ethnicity. We strive to make our community a place of peace and acceptance, love and nurture, even as we challenge ourselves and others to live more faithfully according to the values of Unitarian Universalism. This is our Halloween and Samhain service. Next week, on November 1st, we're going to be having a Zoom service for our Day of the Dead service. And I invite you to look on our website or watch for an email with instructions for the Zoom, which will be at 10:30 on Sunday morning. Our opening words today come from a Samhain ritual. I invite you to follow along virtually as we prepare, or as we would prepare, our space.
Casting the circle. Let us prepare this place and ourselves for our ritual. The circle will now be swept. Take slow, deep breaths. As we breathe, gather up any negativity and release it to the edge of the circle. Take another deep breath in and gather up distraction and release this to the circle's edge so that it might be swept away. Take another breath in and within yourself gather up fear and disruptive energies and again release these to the circle's edge. Let the witch's broom, the besom, sweep away negativity, sweep away fear, and sweep away distraction. Let our circle be a place of calm and healing for ourselves, and welcome for the spirits and memories of our beloved dead. The circle is swept. Blessed be. Let the circle be purified. Make a space inside of yourself for the contemplation of memories that are both hard and soft. Make a time within time to be with both present and past. Make a space within to welcome the spirits of our dead. This is a place able to hold joy and sadness, love, and loss. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply. Let this place and our spirits be cleansed. Let our circle be a place of purity and sacredness. Blessed be. Let the circle be cast. We cast this circle to make a space between the worlds of the living and the spirit. We cast this circle to make this a sacred place. We cast this circle to protect and keep out all that is harmful and destructive. We cast this circle to make the work we do in our ritual serve the good and healing of all present. We cast this circle to make a holy place, to welcome our beloved dead. The circle is cast. We are between the worlds. Chalice lighting. We light our chalice as an invitation for wandering spirits to come into our presence and join us in this time of remembering and playful celebration.
And now we will sing our opening hymn, number 1, Let Nothing Evil Cross This Door, in your hardback hymnal, singing the living tradition.
At this time, I invite you to virtually reach out to greet those who you know would be here if we were able to be together. Also greet those who you'd like to invite to be with us, and greet those spirits that you hope to feel during our gathering today.
Join me as we read the words of affirmation. We believe in love. Love is the only doctrine of this church. We believe in truth. The quest for truth is our sacrament. We believe in helping others, and service is our prayer. We believe in the sacredness of life. To dwell together in peace, seek knowledge in freedom, serve humanity in fellowship, and cherish the earth and its creatures. This do we covenant, each with the other.
All right. So today we're talking about lots of traditions, 3 different holidays, and they share some of the same traditions. And one thing that we've talked a lot about in October is pumpkins, right? We've done a lot with pumpkins. So this is a story, kind of more of a Halloween story, which we'll hear a little bit about Halloween later. Sort of just an October story about a lady who really didn't like pumpkins, and we're going to find out why. Every year at springtime, Rebecca Estelle planted just enough seeds in her garden to grow vegetables for the long winter. She planted carrots and beans, tomatoes and peas, corn and rutabagas. She grew a little bit of everything except pumpkins. Rebecca Estelle hated pumpkins. When she was a little girl, money had been scarce. That means she didn't have very much money growing up. For an entire month, all there had been to eat were pumpkins. Baked pumpkins, steamed pumpkins, boiled pumpkins, stewed pumpkins, mashed pumpkins, rotten pumpkins, breakfast pumpkins, lunch pumpkins, dinner pumpkins, enough pumpkins. When things finally improved and there was more money to buy food, Rebecca Estelle decided she would never eat pumpkins again, or even look at one, not ever. And she didn't, until one autumn, long after Rebecca Estelle's hair had turned snowy white, she was raking the leaves that fell each fall from her black walnut tree, and her cat, Esmeralda, was scattering them just as quickly. All of a sudden, the pumpkin truck passed by. Oh, she heard it coming, and she knew what it was. It rumbled by at harvest time every year. She turned her back and concentrated on picking up the last fallen leaf. She managed to ignore the truck until splat. An enormous pumpkin tumbled off the truck and smashed into slimy orange smithereens all over the edge of her yard. "Come back here and get this pumpkin," she yelled, but the driver just sped away. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? What happens when seeds get spread all over? Well, I won't touch it, Rebecca Estelle insisted, getting her shovel from the barn. "And I won't look at it," she added, and she shoveled dirt on top of the pumpkin pieces. "I won't think about pumpkin ever again," she declared. And she didn't. Until spring. When Rebecca Estelle was admiring the new sprouts in her garden, she noticed Esmeralda playing in some big green leaves growing at the edge of her yard. "How curious," she said, going over to inspect them. "I didn't plant anything here." Then Rebecca Estelle remembered the pumpkin truck and the slimy pumpkin smithereens. "Pumpkins?" she cried in disgust. "Come out of there, Esmeralda. I will not water those plants. I will not tend them. I will ignore them and they will die." She picked up Esmeralda and stomped inside. But a week later, when Rebecca Estelle peered out her window, she saw that the vines had grown. She tramped to the barn, got her garden tools, and went to work on the pumpkin vines. She cut and she dug until not one was left growing. There, now there will be no pumpkins. She smiled and went back inside. But the next week, when she was weeding the garden, she noticed the pumpkin vines had grown back. Rebecca Estelle marched inside and snapped the curtains shut. "The only thing to do is ignore them. They won't grow if I don't take care of them," she muttered. So rain or shine, all spring and summer, she never looked out the front window. She used only the back door and never even glanced toward the vines. Neither did Esmeralda. Rebecca Estelle ignored the vines so well that in time she forgot why she wasn't using the front door. Until one autumn day when she and Esmeralda went to rake the leaves that fell each fall from the black walnut tree in the front of the house. Are you ready? "Pumpkins!" Rebecca Estelle shrieked. Pumpkin vines had twisted and twined under the bushes, over the bird bath, through the porch rails and onto the rocking chair. The entire yard was a sea of plump, round pumpkins. Rebecca Estelle could no longer ignore them. She plopped down on the pumpkin nearest her, patting her hands over her face. "What will I ever do, Esmeralda?" she cried. "How will I get rid of this many pumpkins?" She thought and she thought. Her mind went back to all the pumpkins she had eaten as a young girl, when pumpkins were the only food her family had. Do you have an idea of what she's going to do? Have an idea in your head? Think she's going to just throw them away? That's a lot of pumpkins to throw away. "Well, we can't let them stay here," she told Esmeralda. "Some people might need these pumpkins, and I suppose there are folks crazy enough to like them. We'll give them away." She marched off to get her wheelbarrow. Rebecca Estelle struggled to lift the first pumpkin, then the second, and then the third. She huffed and she puffed as she wheeled the loaded wheelbarrow into the lane. "I'm too tired to deliver these heavy pumpkins now," Rebecca Estelle grumbled. She mopped her brow with her apron and wondered what to do next. "Perhaps if I make them into pies, they will be easier to deliver." So she went to work. She scooped the slimy seeds out of the pumpkins and cut away the shells. After she boiled the pumpkin meat, she mixed it with eggs, milk, sugar, flour, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves to make rich pies. Then Rebecca Estelle made pumpkin tarts, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin cakes, pumpkin bread, pumpkin pudding, pumpkin cookies, until pumpkin dishes spilled out of every cupboard, drawer, and cubbyhole, and the seeds were a mountain in the corner.
See the seeds?
Well, that's the first batch, Rebecca Estelle said, dusting her floury hands, now to deliver them. She put the wheelbarrow outside the kitchen door, then loaded it up with pumpkin treats. When it was full, just the thought of delivering all those pumpkin dishes made Rebecca Estelle tired. If only people would come get them, she said, and then she had an idea. Rebecca Estelle whirled around and hurried back into the house for a kitchen knife. This should get people to come, she thought.
You know what she's going to do?
Yes.
With the kitchen knife? You have an idea?
Yeah, she's going to try pumpkins.
She took her knife and sat in the middle of the pumpkin patch. She carved a smiling face on a nice round pumpkin, a scary snaggletooth face on a tall thin pumpkin, and boo on a short squat pumpkin. She was so busy carving pumpkins, she hardly noticed how dark it was getting. When she could no longer see, she went to the shelf on the back porch and got the sack of candles that she kept for emergencies. If this doesn't get people to come here, we'll have to deliver them all ourselves, she muttered to Esmeralda.
Do you think the people in town are going to notice?
What would you do if you saw all of these jack-o'-lanterns at the lady's house, the lady who never comes into town and never talks to you? What would you do? What would you think? You'd ask. You'd follow. You'd go to the pumpkins. Would you, Tenzing? I would. I wouldn't be able to resist. What would you do, Paige?
Yeah, you'd say,
Why do you have so many pumpkins? You must love pumpkins. Rebecca Estelle peered into the darkness for a long time. She didn't see anything. Still, she watched until finally she saw a light. Faint at first, then brighter, and then more lights bobbing through the night. Here they come, she shouted. Esmeralda, let's heat some apple cider.
see them laying over there?
Young and old, everyone in town came. Rebecca Estelle, we thought you hated pumpkins. We saw your jack-o'-lanterns from the end of the road and came for a closer look. I was hoping you would, said Rebecca Estelle. Where did you find all these pumpkins, people asked. I came by them quite by accident, Rebecca Estelle said, smiling. Would you like some pumpkin pie? There's plenty. She winked at Esmeralda. Everyone enjoyed the pumpkin pie and cider and had a good time. So did Rebecca Estelle. And when they were ready to go home, she made sure each carried a jack-o'-lantern, a bag of seeds for roasting, and a pumpkin treat. Rebecca Estelle gave away everything that reminded her of the pumpkins that she had always hated. Until... all that remained was one handful of seeds. What do you think she did with them? What do you think? Think she planted them? Let's see. All that remained was one handful of seeds, and those she tucked snugly into her pocket, where they would be safe until planting time next spring. Did you like that? Yeah.
This time in our service, we light candles of joy and concern to share the milestones in our lives that have particular meaning. First, for this Halloween and Samhain festival, I invite us to light a candle for those beloved ancestors to whom we would like to share this time. I invite us to send good energy to all those suffering from COVID-19, all those struggling with the effects of white supremacy and racism in our nation, all those who are worried about the electoral process and what may be coming in days shortly to follow. And one more, I light for all those things that are in our hearts, joys and concerns that we haven't been able to share together. I invite us now into a time of silent thought, prayer, and meditation. As we gather together virtually, along with whatever spirits might come to be with us in this time when the veil is thin, we celebrate all those events of life that we've been unable to share together, the birthdays and anniversaries, the births, the weddings, the opportunities to travel to far places, which a few of us have been able to accomplish. We take this time as the days are getting shorter, as the nights are getting cooler, in this Halloween, Samhain season, to think of the people who have gone before, the ancestors who have blessed us throughout our lives, those who have given wisdom to our nation and to the world. We come together aware that we're not as able now to share the stories, the concerns that weigh upon our hearts, but we know that this community is here for us to share those stories, for us to be together, for us to strengthen each other and support each other in difficult times, to laugh and sing together, to share the joy of new family members and new pets and all the good things that can happen in the world. We give thanks for the opportunity to be together, even if it's only virtually. We remember that this congregation is here for us in good times and in bad times. For all of this, and for this community especially, we give thanks. Amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Reading by Hugh Robert Orr. They are not gone who pass beyond the clasp of a hand out from the strong embrace. They are but come so close we need not grope with the hands, nor look to see, nor try to catch the sound of feet. They have put off their shoes softly to walk by day within our thoughts, to tread at night our dream-led paths of sleep.
At this time in our service, we invite the sharing of gifts and offerings, and invite anyone who would like to make a gift or a contribution or send in a pledge payment to do so to our church office, 2737 Pacific Avenue, Stockton, California, 95204. Thank you. Halloween and Samhain. This year, the scariest seasonal decoration is the one that just says 2020. None of the goblins and ghouls, ghosts and vampires and zombies are nearly as scary as 2020 with its fires and floods and COVID-19. 2020 will be a curse to future generations. Some say that we were warned in the prophetic label of a certain virulent drink, Mad Dog or MD 2020. Most jurisdictions are recommending that people avoid trick-or-treating this year, so we will have to wait to see whether the usual parade of princesses and aliens comes out on Saturday. Samhain is a pagan harvest festival from which most of Halloween is borrowed. European native cultures have practiced the Celtic festival of Samhain halfway between the fall equinox and the winter solstice since ancient times. Pagans believed that the barrier between the world of the living and the world of the dead would grow thin during Samhain, allowing interaction between the living and the ancestors. They dressed as monsters so that fairies would not kidnap them. This was a time when bonfires were lit. In the Middle Ages, the tradition of carving jack-o'-lanterns from turnips began, later switching to using pumpkins. As Christianity spread, Pope Boniface attempted to move the celebration to May in the 5th century and make it a day to celebrate saints and martyrs. But the Samhain celebrations continued. Pope Gregory moved it back to the fall, but declared it All Saints' Day, that All Saints' Day would be November 1st, All Souls' Day, November 2nd, and All Hallows' Eve on October 31st. Halloween is the most widely celebrated part of the festival in the United States, especially focusing on costumes and trick-or-treating. We've had fun celebrating Halloween, Samhain, and the Day of the Dead together for several years now. This year, the calendar fell so that it made sense to split off the Day of the Dead and recognize it next week in a Zoom service in which people can share the names and brief stories about recently lost loved ones. That gave us the opportunity to think about Halloween and Samhain this week. Halloween has been one of the top holidays in my family for years. It's more fun to decorate for Halloween than even for Christmas because there are so many possibilities. Halloween has become big in terms of sales, but too often in recent years, stores are setting up Christmas displays long before either Thanksgiving or Halloween. The pagan celebrations come from the earth-centered traditions that were most recently added to our list of sources within our living tradition. Though the earth-centered religions may be the oldest of any, they were generally not favored within Judeo-Christian history and writings. One UU colleague and author, who's no longer with us, once told the story of how he came to realize and embrace many of the beliefs now included among our sources. I don't remember the details, but he was discussing beliefs with somebody and discovered that he shared most of the beliefs of pagans. So he added that to his list as he described himself. As a web force religious humanist, I totally got it. I would add pagan to my list, but I think the web mostly covers it. And speaking of webs, don't you just love to see larger-than-life spiders and webs around town? Some spiders and tarantulas make me a little bit nervous, but most of them are really interesting. I've never really had any pet spiders, but I try not to do them harm as long as they do the same to me. I have been known to move some out of the house if I don't like their chosen location. The web of life really is a wonderful way of thinking about all that is and keeping things in perspective. Now, as you know, I might have one or two points at which I disagree with the current U.S. administration. As we get closer to the election, I know I am not alone in hoping for some significant changes. This year particularly has been hard in so many ways, but merely changing a few of the leading characters will not be enough to take our country where it needs to go. We also need to change minds and hearts, to move science, and particularly climate science and ecology, to a more prominent place, and to take apart the wealth myth that has taken over our country in the last few decades. Few of us UUs are focused on wealth and power the way many in public leadership are these days. More of us are focused on public service, community health, education, and building a better world. Few, if any of us, chose our work in pursuit of wealth or power. I've been disappointed to see how few people are studying the arts, humanities, theology, or civic administration in recent days, at least in comparison with those studying business and finance. I hope that we can reach a point soon where all persons will have enough and are able to follow dreams that are more artistic and civic-minded. The scariest costume this year might be that of one particular political leader. Can you think who I might have in mind? I hope that there will be celebrations of Halloween and Samhain, at least within families. I've been working on ideas for treat delivery systems, just in case there are trick-or-treaters in this neighborhood. Some suggestions for treat delivery systems have even made the news, but I'm still working on mine. Sometimes with the veil between the worlds so thin, we might catch a word of wisdom from the ancestors. What would they say to us about this time? How might they help us choose a healthier path forward? Would they have comments about the state of our nation today? Many ancestors have seen previous world pandemics. What might they tell us about getting through this one? What about the ecological crisis? How might they feel about the ways we have allowed the earth to be harmed? However this Halloween-Samhain season develops, I hope you have good opportunities to think of your ancestors. I also hope you have time to connect with family and friends in safe, masked, and distant ways. May this be a time of blessing for each of you, and may the world soon find a better balance and a healthier way forward. Blessed be, shalom, salam, namaste, and amen. At this time, I invite you to virtually hold hands with those who would be here in the service, those who you connect with, as well as those ancestors that are touching you at this time. May this congregation be dedicated to the proposition behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there's a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. And now, as we open the circle, I invite you to hear these last words of blessing. May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts, now and forevermore. Amen. Go in peace.